The next three talks, the next three presentations center around the country of Pakistan, which was created by partitioning India. And people say that Pakistan is a failing state, and they've been saying for decades. But the Pakistan project has been very successful, to use that word. The complete ethnic cleansing of the areas of Pakistan and Bangladesh, as we see, from Hindus, Buddhists, Christians now. So that has been very successful. I mean, that seems like a strange word to use, but that's actually a fact. And unless we do something about that, it's a lost cause. So let's get into it. And our next speaker is Ms. Richa Gautam. I invite her to the podium. Richa is the Executive Director at CARES Global, which is a human rights group that works with the rehabilitation of Pakistani refugees. She has regularly engaged with the United Nations in Geneva to advocate for girls and women in Pakistan. The topic she's speaking on today is the sexual atrocities on Hindu girls in Pakistan. She's advocated for the rights of women who immigrate to the United States, and now her professional background is as a data analyst in the corporate sector, so she brings a lot of that expertise to bear in the social sciences using artificial intelligence. She's also the founder of the civil rights advocacy and think tank Cascade and Caste Files. She has authored peer-reviewed research papers regarding the caste misconception and social inequality, and published 4 papers in an academic anthology. She's written articles, she's been interviewed by TV channels, and she's a senior researcher associated with the Center of Indic Studies. Her research focuses on decoding caste using colonial and ethnic studies of Indic ethnology. Richa ji.
Thank you so much, Kanji. I hope everyone can hear me. It's good, right? So namaste, thank you so much to Adityanji, ICHRRF for hosting this conference in such a beautiful location. It helps absorb some of the shocks that we're feeling today with this really heavy discussion. But as we know, we have to never forget, never forgive when we have faced such atrocities. Today, I'm going to talk about a global scrutiny of the sexual violence against minor girls in Pakistan, and the history of theocratic radicalism. So it's a 3-part study. If you go to the next slide. So the whole idea here is that, first of all, I want to take us through what the UN says about rape and sexual violence. Also talk about what's happening in Pakistan, and then how, because of our global world, how it permeates across the globe, and this culture is not localized to just South Asia or Pakistan. And then, of course, try to look at some recommendations there, right? Now, let's look at what the UN says. I mean, the UN does recognize that rape and sexual violence is a form of genocide. The number of conflicts that happen, most of them, almost all of them, involve sexual violence. 95% of them are on women. And recently, last year, the Security Council held a discussion on that, where at least 72 delegates talked about this, and Ukraine was on focus at that time. But then that was in July. After that, October 7th happened, and that actually brought into focus the theocratic nature of Islamic radicalism, ISIS, and how there is a playbook of how Islamic radicalism includes rape as a form of violence. And I have presented at the Stanford University at one of the discussions with the Jewish groups there, and also spoken to Ekayem Levy, who is the Civil Commission head that is investigating and documenting the sexual violence that took place on October 7th at a music festival against civilians. So that rape process that she documented, she said it is a form of genocide. It was planned. There were 7 different groups working across 7 different areas, but the kind of violence that was inflicted upon the women was exactly the same sort of playbook. And I watched an interview of an ISIS jail inmate in US actually, and he confessed the fact that they are expected to rape women. So sexual violence in conflicts is a part of the playbook, right? And in a resolution in 2008, the UN Security Council, the UNHRC have recognized this as an important aspect of war crimes. It is recognized as a war crime, and they have said that rape does constitute genocide. Now, what happens in Pakistan, if you look at the next slide, Pakistan is obviously not recognized as a conflict zone. But if we know the history of Pakistan, the way it was manufactured and created as a garrison state, and I think all of the panelists today are talking about the fact that I would recognize that this is not a post-colonial world. We are living in a neo-colonial world. And Pakistan is probably exhibit A of that process. So in the next, this slide actually just talks about the fact that various scholars have written various research papers on how sexual violence otherizes, it promotes slavery, it promotes, I think one of my favorite quote there is by Dagmar Herzog, who says, "Sexual violence is soul murder." So it is a way of completely finishing a person because of the repeated rapes and repeated violations of the body to create, a pretty much soul murder, as she calls it. In Pakistan, what's going on, which is considered a non-conflict zone, but it really is not. I think every single group has faced violence there, but the little girls, when they reach puberty, again, there are gangs, just as we saw in October 7th, there are gangs of men in the village who are watching out when a girl reaches puberty. These are girls of minority faiths, of Hindu, Sikh, Christian, and some Buddhists, and they are then abducted, they are forcefully converted. Many times they are raped and prostituted. Sometimes they're married off as third or fourth wives. 9-year-old married to a 50-year-old is a very common occurrence. 12-year-olds, 16-year-olds. And this is the way the system works there. The Hindu population has declined from about 18% of the population when Pakistan was free to about 1.6% of the population. And these numbers were corroborated by European Parliament. They're obviously not exactly correct. There's probably much more happening in remote parts of Pakistan. On the next slide, I have about 4 cases that I want to quickly run through. This is the case of Wrinkle Kumari that happened about a decade ago, which brought to light the theocratic aspect of this. Mia Mittu in Ghodki, Sindh is known as a factory of conversion of Hindu girls specifically. You can see in the middle, there's a little girl sitting there. He's sitting in front, and then there's a gang of men who have surrounded her. And this is the kind of oppression that little girls go through. Once they are converted in what is called it's his religious sort of a process, they are not allowed to go back to their parents. That's apostasy. Wrinkle Kumari was one of those girls who did not give in to the pressure of saying, yes, I'm okay with conversion and marrying a Muslim man. And she was slapped in front of the judge during a public hearing. And he told the judge that if you do not rule in our favor, Sindh is going to burn. And of course the judge ruled in his favor. We don't know where Wrinkle Kumari is. There's another such case of Chanda Maharaj, which happened a couple of years ago. She was a minor. She was abducted and raped. And her parents showed her birth certificate. There was international pressure. There was a group that went from UK. Some of our Hindu delegates did go to Pakistan. But she was sent to a safe house until she turned 16, which is the marriageable age there for Hindu families, by the way. And she was then, when she turned 16, she was sent back to her abductor and rapist. She was not sent to her parents. This is the case that just hurts me the most, I guess. And the next case is even more audacious. This girl was a Sikh girl who was in the year when Guru Nanak's birth anniversary was being celebrated by Punjabs in Pakistan and Punjab in India. There was an open corridor, there was a big highlight of Guru Nanak Dev's birth anniversary. The priest of the Gurudwara there, which was Guru Nanak's original birthplace, Nankana Sahib, the priest's daughter was abducted in the middle of all of that celebration. She was married off to this man, and she was told that, again, there will be mayhem, your parents will be killed, etc. And she agreed, and she's now the mother of his child. She's a Muslim, obviously. So this is the kind of genocide we're facing in Pakistan on a regular basis, where rape is constituted as part of that discussion. There's another aspect to it, blasphemy. Asia Bibi's case is something I think most people who are aware of humanitarian crimes is aware of, right? She was caught drinking water from a well that is meant just for Muslims. So that is the kind of discrimination that all minority faiths face in Pakistan. They are not allowed to drink water in a classroom, in a school. The Muslims have a separate place with a glass. The Hindus and Christians are supposed to drink directly from the tap. They're not supposed to touch the glasses. And I have had personally heard these kind of testimonials. And Asia Bibi faced that. It seems, after a hard day's work, when she was getting water for her colleagues and her field hands who were working with her, someone saw her drinking water from that, and she was not, after that, caught in the case of blasphemy, where mobs actually asked for her death. As you can see here, it says, hang Asia Bibi. And this became an international case. Why? Because it's a Christian lady. So there was international pressure from Western countries, and she was put in jail instead of being hanged. So the politician, the Punjab's governor, Salman Taseer, actually advocated for her. And what happened to him? He was shot dead by his own bodyguard, and his bodyguard was hailed as a hero in Pakistan. Of course, the courts sentenced him to death, but he became a hero in Pakistan. And Salman Taseer, who advocated for Asia Bibi, was shot dead. Asia Bibi, on the other hand, is now in Paris thanks to a lot of international intervention. I want to go to the global impact of this. Bangladesh earlier was East Pakistan. I think most